Thank you very much, Abby, and good morning to all colleagues um, and participants in this second day of the National Workshop on NSP in Kenya. Um, Abby, can you put on my first slides, please? Excellent. I'm hoping everybody can see that. Okay, so as Abby said, I'm with the Nairobi Convention Secretariat based in Nairobi, um, and responsible mainly for issues around policy and governance within the convention. So working closely with several of the projects and programs within the convention, especially to make sure that they work in a synergistic manner that addresses the work program of the convention. So yeah, I have a very close interest in MSP because it is a tool that brings together many of the different aspects of our work in the Western Indian Ocean. So I'm going to give a little bit of a regional context to MSP work, specifically looking at the process of developing a regional MSP strategy. So kind of taking a little bit of a broader view. I know the discussions to date in this webinar have been quite focused on Kenya, but I think it's also interesting and important to see what is going on at a regional level and how the Kenyan process is fitting into that as well. Next slide, please, Abby. Right, so the Nairobi Convention is a legal framework and platform for regional collaboration between countries and agencies. It covers 10 countries in the Western Indian Ocean, as shown on the map on the right-hand side there. The mandate of the convention is to protect, manage, and develop the Western Indian Ocean at the regional level. So working with those 10 countries towards a common goal and a vision which is as follows, that it is a partnership, the convention is a partnership between governments, between those 10 countries, civil society and the private sector, working towards a prosperous Western Indian Ocean region. Okay, so that in terms of, next slide please, Abby. Next slide please, Abby. Thank you. So of course, integrated planning and management is something that is integral to the work of the convention. Just to emphasize that at the 2018 Sustainable Blue Economy Conference held in Nairobi, Kenya, as well as other countries in the region, made a commitment towards the approach of an integrated or integrated efforts towards unlocking the blue economy potential. If we go to the next slide, please, Abby. Thank you. Actually, you're in the correct place. Don't move. Can you go back one? Thank you. Okay, so in terms of the convention, the countries of the region have made several decisions, especially at the Conference of Parties in 2016 and 2018, that support MSP and require that the Secretariat incorporates MSP as one of the area-based tools that should be used in ocean governance and obviously promoting the blue economy. So there's several of these these decisions that have been taken. So we have a very strong mandate to go forward with marine spatial planning and also capacity building programs that support this within the region. Next slide, please, Abby. And in March last year, in 2019, I think we had a key regional gathering to try and work out the way forward in terms of regional approaches to MSP. And several recommendations came out of that meeting. The first was the Secretariat was requested to establish a regional MSP technical working group. This has been done within the last 3 or 4 months. Each country has nominated 2 members to sit on this technical working group. And I'm pleased to say that Kenya currently is the chair of this working group, and they've been quite active within the first 2 months of operation. Then the meeting last year also requested that a regional and national legal and policy gap analysis is conducted. This has started. I will get onto it as it forms part of the regional strategy development around MSP. And then one of the issues that came out strongly from the meeting last year was that the countries of the region are in different stages or levels in terms of practice of MSP. And this was seen as an opportunity, really, where shared learning between countries could be important with those countries that have made significant progress. Just for example, Seychelles, with their Seychelles Marine Spatial Plan, would have really good lessons to share with other countries that are planning or have recently started their process. Seychelles has been busy with this process for the last 5 years, and I think it's come to the end of the process, so they're very well advanced in this. And then the meeting also requested the development of a regional MSP strategy. The strategy, I guess, and we'll see this a little bit later, is that it should be broad enough to incorporate the different approaches, different priorities that countries have, but at the same time provide some sort of regional guidance, especially when it comes to shared issues of concern. Because many of the marine spatial planning processes or marine spatial planning issues are transboundary in nature, especially if you think about, for example, a good example would be the small pelagic fisheries in the Pemba and Zanzibar channels, which by all accounts move quite freely between Kenyan and Tanzanian waters. So they need to be looked at in a transboundary focus. And MSP needs to also, I think, take that into consideration. Next slide, please, Abby. Okay, so just to summarize the priority actions in support of MSP that the convention has been asked to spearhead. As I said, the first one, the regional MSP strategy development, which we will focus in a little bit more as we go in this presentation. Then capacity building aspects are important to support countries in the region. Then another very interesting issue is cumulative impact assessment. And the convention has gone into a partnership or entered into a partnership with the Swedish Agency for Water Management, and are starting to look at the issue of cumulative impact assessment in the region, which will be a really useful addition to MSP practices, also at national level. So SWAM are offering their services at a national level as well, sharing some of the experiences they've had with the Swedish MSP process, which has been ongoing for at least 10 years. So they'll have useful input, and their willingness to support us is very timely. And then national level MSP processes. Just for example, in Kenya, the convention through its projects are supporting the Blue Economy assessment through the University of Nairobi. You'll hear a bit later from Yvonne about that process. And then through one of our projects, the YSAP project, MSP in Kilifi County has been supported. I think that's together with WWF. And then UNEP is also involved in the EU Jumaya project, a county level project that is planned for the coastal counties. And then, of course, we have a special interest in the transboundary conservation area, and also how we can contribute to the MSP processes that might be ongoing in that area. Next slide, please, Abby. Thank you. Yeah, and so how do we do this through the Convention Secretariat? Very briefly, I just wanted to show you this slide. The Convention has one work program addressing 4 key areas. Firstly, assessments and capacity development, management, coordination and legal aspects, and then information and awareness. We do this through several projects. Currently, we have 6 ongoing projects that contribute to supporting the work program. And these 6 projects, the work that is done under them can be clustered under 9 themes. And I just wanted to show you that marine spatial planning is one of the key 9 themes that we are working on. So it is a priority, and there are significant resources through these projects that we are executing to support marine spatial planning in the region. Next slide, please, Abby. Thank you. So now we'll get on to just a short description of the MSP strategy process that started earlier this year. As a result of the request to the Secretariat, we identified a lead institution within the region to drive this process. And the Institute for Coastal and Marine Research at the Nelson Mandela University in South Africa, in collaboration with WIOMSA, and working very closely with the regional MSP Technical Working Group, who was appointed, I think, in about March or April this year. The objectives and time frame of this strategy development process would be to develop a marine spatial planning strategy for the Western Indian Ocean region as a whole, following on the commitments of the contracting parties on the adoption of MSP for sustainable development. And the project or the process will run from August, or has been running from August this year, and is planned to be completed by February 2021. Just a little bit of background and rationale to put the strategy development process in context. The countries of the WIO have developed and adopted MSP approaches for different purposes. This is a fact. As I mentioned earlier, countries are at different levels, some very advanced, some just beginning with MSP work. And then furthermore, different coastal and marine sectors have historically been managed individually, and this has resulted in a lack of coordination in decisions affecting management of coastal and marine resources. And generally, it's important to apply a harmonized approach in the development of coastal areas and the utilization of these resources and the space among all the competing needs and associated stakeholders. A regional approach to MSP can have added benefits by applying a broader perspective to some of the challenges associated with marine and coastal governance. And then a regional context provides an opportunity for joint learning, improved cooperation, and capacity building to support implementation of MSP across the region and in a more consistent manner. And then a regional strategy will aim to harmonize policy and legislative structures towards common goals and objectives of an ecosystem-based approach to ocean management. The regional approach will also provide a coordinated structure for knowledge and data sharing, incorporate broad stakeholder engagement, and increase communication and collaboration with relevant organizations in the region. Next slide, please, Abby. I think we've lagged behind. I haven't asked you.
Yes.
Okay, next slide. Next slide. And then one
Should
more
I move
slide,
again?
please.
Okay.
You can go down one more. That's it. Okay, so even though we're at quite an early stage with the MSP development, in this diagram shows what is planned. The idea is to come up with a regional vision that would be co-developed with the technical working group and stakeholders, and then also a goal for the MSP in the region, and then a set of objectives. At this stage, they haven't been confirmed, but for example, ocean support to livelihoods, oceans contribute to sustainable blue economies and job creation, and then oceans are conserved, managed, and developed for the common good, etc. And then the strategy would have a section on strategic themes or priorities. I think over the last few days, some of these have been talked about. I picked up that aquaculture in Kenya, for example, was highlighted as a important sector to consider within the MSP process. But yes, sustainable fisheries, coastal development, tourism, conservation and rehabilitation, among others, are expected to be important strategic themes within the regional strategy. And then a really important part of the strategy will be execution. So how do we go forward in terms of making the strategy into a practical reality? So issues around financing, capacity development needs, research and innovation needs, etc., will be elaborated in that section of the strategy. Next slide, please, Abby. Okay, this is my last slide. Just a little bit of a timeline in terms of development of the regional strategy. The consultants have already come up with the first deliverable, which is an assessment or situational report on the current status of MSP practices in the Wire region, especially looking at each of the countries as well. And they've also looked at best practices and that we can learn from other parts of the world. So that has been produced. And then a very schematic outline of what will be included in the strategy has also been produced by the end of last month. So the consultants are currently working on a second draft of the strategy, and through consultation with the MSP Technical Working Group, they we'll come up with a strengthened strategy document that has a little bit more meat on the bones, if you like, by the end of this month, is scheduled. Then this strategy needs to go through the science to policy process of the convention, which would allow for further inputs from the region as a whole, beyond the stakeholders and country inputs that already had been made at that stage. The science to policy meeting is scheduled in February, for February next year. We're not sure if it's going to be a face-to-face meeting or a virtual meeting yet. That will be decided closer to the time. But it'll be at that point where the draft strategy is presented to the wider audience in the region. And then again, feedback will be taken from those meetings, the strategy finalized. And then the idea is to try and take that strategy through to the convention's conference of parties, which is scheduled for May next year. And as part of that process, a policy brief will be developed that highlights the main aspects of the regional strategy for consideration at the country level through the structures of the Nairobi Convention. So hopefully by February, end of February, we'll have that final output, and it will be ready to take further through the political process in the region. So I'll leave it at that. Hopefully it just provides a little bit of support, a little bit of a context of how, at least at the regional level, we see MSP developing. And yeah, the Kenyan situation that we've heard about over the last days, and we'll hear more specifically about now, I think, in the following presentations. We'll just, I think, add some very good, more detail to the very broad presentation that I've made here. Can we go to the next slide? I think it's just a thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Welcome to answer any questions at the time when the panelists have the opportunity to do that. Thank you very much for your time.